I'm 34 years old and my brother is just over a year younger than me. We grew up together in a pretty normal way. I had my own group of friends, he had his, and apart from living in the same house and having the same relatives, we didn't seem to have much in common. When I went off to university, I only saw him rarely over the next 4 years. After graduation, I didn't move back home. Instead, I moved in with my boyfriend, now my husband. By that time, my brother had also left home and was living in a different city. While I still visited my family often, he visited less frequently, and it was rare that our visits coincided. For several years, I hardly saw him, and we only communicated on birthdays or Christmas. Things changed when he experienced a life event and moved back in with our mother. At the time, he was around 28 or 29 years old. Because he was living with mom, I started seeing him much more often. Even though the age gap between us is small, I felt like I was much older. I was married with kids, and it seemed like I had stepped into proper adulthood while he was still my little brother. The first time I saw him again after such a long gap, I felt like he had changed so much. His appearance, his personality, even the way he spoke and moved. It was almost like meeting a stranger. What surprised me was that no one else in the family seemed to notice or comment on it, but it was so obvious to me. Since then, even though he no longer lives with our mom, our relationship has shifted. We text and call each other more often, and even make plans to meet outside of regular family gatherings. At some point, I don't know exactly when, I started to realize I had feelings for him. At first, I didn't understand what I was feeling. I thought I was just being overly emotional or overthinking things. But things became clearer when he got a girlfriend. I felt this odd mix of protectiveness and jealousy. That's when it hit me. I was attracted to him. My feelings for him were a blend of admiration and desire. I'm not sure what I hope to achieve by sharing this, but I feel incredibly alone with these emotions, and I have no one to talk to about them.
All right, so we're diving deep today, deep into, it's a story someone shared
Yeah.
online, right? And it's a lot family stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we got to be, sensitive, obviously,
Yeah.
but it's wild. Like the kind of stuff you just, you don't see coming.
Intriguing. Well, those personal stories, those are often the ones that really get you thinking,
Yeah.
those messy real life situations.
Exactly. And this one's got layers. Okay, so basic setup. Woman, 34, brother's a year younger.
Okay.
Not super close growing up.
Yeah.
Pretty typical, I guess. Went their separate ways, did their own thing. Holidays, birthdays, that kind of contact. Not much else.
Right. I mean, that happens a lot, I think, especially when they're close in age, Sometimes it's like that early dynamic, it just kind of sticks.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So things are like that. Distant, right?
Mm-hmm.
Until, and this is where things get interesting, the brother moves back in with their mom.
Hmm.
Something happened. We don't know the details, but it kind of shakes things up.
Sometimes that's all it takes, like
Yeah.
you're forced to be around each other and boom, all the old stuff comes up.
Totally. So now, this woman, she's married, got kids, she's going over to her mom's more often, and she starts seeing her brother differently.
Differently how?
Everything. His look, the way he acts, his whole personality. It's like she's actually seeing him, like, for the first time.
Hmm. And is anyone else in the family picking up on this? Or is it just her?
She doesn't mention anyone else noticing, which is interesting, right? Like, is it her? Her own thing, Or is he actually different?
Well, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? How much of what we see is colored by our own perceptions? Maybe it's a bit of both,
Totally. Anyway, even after the brother moves out, something's changed. They're talking more, texting, making plans that aren't just like family obligations.
So they're building a new dynamic. Interesting. Like you said, sometimes these big life events, even if they're not directly happening to you, they can be a catalyst, right?
Right. Like it makes you reevaluate things.
Right.
And in this case, it leads to, she starts having feelings for her brother.
Romantic feelings.
Yeah. Which, obviously throws her for a loop. She tries to brush it off, tell herself it's nothing. But then he gets a girlfriend.
Oh, wow. I bet that complicated things.
Big time. Cue the jealousy,
Yeah.
the protectiveness, even. Like suddenly it's real.
Because she sees him as, like, taken. I wonder if there's an element of, like, that mere exposure thing. The more we're around someone, the more we tend to, I don't know, like them, even if it's subconscious.
Yeah. Like they're spending more time together, rediscovering each other. Plus, now she's the one of the stable life, right?
Yeah.
He's going through all these changes. Makes sense.
Definitely changes the dynamic. Makes you think, right?
Yeah.
Like, how much do we really know the people we think we know? Our own families, even.
Exactly. And she's got no one to talk to about this. It's huge, right? Like, talk about taboo.
And isolating shows you even families that seem normal on the surface, there's always more going on underneath. Always.
Always. So here we are. She's feeling things she never expected. And it all comes back to how she sees him, right? Her perception.
That's a good point. I mean, what role did he play in all this? We only have her side. What does HE think?
That's the million-dollar question. And the story leaves us hanging. Do the feelings fade? Or is this like a bigger shift? No easy answers, right?
But that's the point, isn't it? To get people thinking, talking about these complex relations.
Yeah.
Families, relationships, it's all fascinating.
Totally. And sometimes it's the stuff we least expect that ends up being the most impactful.
Absolutely.
So there you have it. A story about family, about change, about the unexpected turns life can take. Something to think about.